What's happening, guys? It is Michael here today and welcome to FudgeMuppet. Today I'll be taking you through our latest build, the Orc Noble. 20 years ago, just outside the lands of Orsinium, a family-rooted Orc raiding party was wreaking havoc upon innocent Breton establishments. The Orcs continued to plunder until eventually Breton knights from High Rock were sent in as a resolution. Amongst the knights were High Rock's most highly trained nobles, and the nobles that had no fear of joining in battle and facing death. Of course, being highly equipped, having more numbers and better skills, the knights slaughtered the Orc raiders, and only a baby was left behind. One of the nobles, Roberto Windvale, found the Orc and took pity upon its life. The child was at first a novelty, a souvenir. Journeying home, the noble grew attached to the baby, and having trouble to produce a child of his own due to his wife's infertility, he decided to adopt the Orc and raise it as his very own son. You can name the Orc any Breton name you like. The Orc was raised in Breton high-class tradition and culture, however he faced much adversity. Other families and children didn't like him, and he was often antagonized even though he was polite, cleaned, and well-trimmed. There was no escaping his biological race. His father trained him as a warrior, however being an Orc, the barracks wouldn't even lend him heavy armor, so the Orc was trained in whatever he could find, such as leather light armor. Eventually he reached adulthood. He was the Orc Noble. He read about the tales and duties of knights and then decided to travel to Skyrim, do good deeds, become a famed knight, and prove his worth and chivalry to his family and town back home. The Orc Noble is extremely polite, good-hearted, not spiteful, and very accepting. The Noble is meant to be a very aesthetic and clean character due to his upbringing, and so when you're making his face, be sure to avoid options that are too aggressive, too dirty, or too scary. The skills for the Orc Noble are one-handed, light armor, smithing, and of course, block. One-handed will be used to slice or bash up your oppositions, light armor to protect you in battles, and smithing to make the armor and the weapons. Block will allow you to protect yourself and others greatly, and also to use your shield as an offense. The Orc Noble uses a full set of dragon plate armor except for his helmet, as he wished to show his enemies and allies that he is not barbaric. He appears kind. The main weapon used is an ebony mace, however he can also switch to a sword and dagger. The Orc Noble was brought up around royalty, and so he's also accustomed to jewelry. Be sure to wear jewelry if you can, even if it's not enchanted. The Orc Noble will also be doing as many quests as he can. He's out to help people, so you should go out of your way to assist the disadvantaged and give to beggars. The Orc Noble should do the Dragonborn storyline and not choose a side in the Civil War earlier. He is to attend the peace meeting with the Greybeards, Tullius, and Ulfric. Later on, you can choose to help the Imperials if you like. The playstyle for the Orc is quite fun. You will often move in straight lines using shield charge once you unlock it to become an unstoppable locomotive of brute determination. Once you've knocked your enemies down, you can then proceed to finish them with your mace. The Orc Noble will also take advantage of his environment. If he is able to bash or charge an enemy off a cliff or a tower, he will immediately do so. When not using his shield and his mace, the Orc Noble can switch to dual wielding a dagger and a sword. This will allow him to dual flurry and take out multiple opponents faster. The stat distribution we've chosen is 60% health and 40% stamina. That finishes this week's build. I hope you've enjoyed it, and as usual you can click the link to our Facebook to vote for next week's build. Be sure to also check out our Instagram and Twitter links. Also, as usual, the link to all the perks you will need is in the description, so be sure to check everything out. I'm Michael from FudgeMuppet, and I'll see you next time.